Day was cleaning the same corner of the docking bay that he had cleaned 1,000 times before. His mop moved in slow, careful strokes. His back hurt. His knees hurt. Everything hurt these days. But the work had to be done, so he did it. The docking bay was quiet. Only 2 small transport ships were scheduled to arrive today. It was a slow day on Station Gamma 7, like most days these years. The station had become less important as newer, larger stations opened in the sector. Fewer ships came. Fewer people passed through. The place was dying slowly, just like Day. He paused to rest, leaning on his mop. Through the bay windows, he could see the stars. Somewhere out there was Hana, or at least somewhere out there had been Hana. Maybe she was dead. Maybe that was why she never contacted him. The thought made his chest tight with pain. Still missing her, old friend? Bach's voice came from behind him. She walked slowly too now, her own body worn by years. Every day, Day said simply. It's been 6 years, Day. Maybe it's time to— Don't, Day interrupted gently. Please, hope is all I have left. Bach touched his shoulder with sympathy and walked away. She had tried many times to help him move on. But how do you move on from a child who took your heart with her when she left? Day returned to his mopping. He had cleaned perhaps 10 more square meters when alarms started blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed. Day looked up confused. Pirates? A reactor failure? Commander Jin's voice came through on all station speakers. All personnel, this is not a drill. Unknown fleet approaching. Multiple capital ships. Repeat, multiple capital ships. They are not responding to hails. Day's heart started racing. War had finally reached their small corner of space. He moved toward the emergency shelter, but his old legs moved slowly. Before he reached the shelter, Jin's voice came through again. But this time it sounded strange, confused. Maybe even scared. Day, you need to come to the command center. Right now. I'm just a janitor, Day said to his communicator. Why do you need me? Just come, please. Jin's voice had an urgency that made Day obey despite his confusion. Day took the lift to the command center, something he had rarely done in his decades on the station. When he arrived, he found Jin and the entire command staff staring at screens showing space outside the station. What Day saw made his breath stop. Ships. Hundreds of ships, maybe thousands, massive warships that dwarfed the station. They had formed up in perfect military formation, surrounding Station Gamma 7 completely. The ships were beautiful, made of silver metal and crystal that caught the light of distant stars. Valerian ships, they sent a message, Jin said, turning to Day. They only sent one message. What did it say? Day asked, his voice barely a whisper. Jin pulled up the transmission. A hologram appeared, showing a Valerian officer in formal military uniform. The officer spoke in perfect Korean. We seek the human called Day, who resides on this station. He is under the personal protection of Empress Hana Velsarin, ruler of the Valerian Empire. Any harm to this human will be considered an act of war against the Empire. We request immediate permission to dock. The command center was completely silent. Everyone turned to look at Day, the old janitor in his stained work uniform. Empress? Day whispered. She did it. She actually did it. You know these people? Jin asked, his voice high with stress. You know their empress? She's my daughter, Day said, tears starting to run down his weathered face. She's my little flower. Your daughter is the Valerian Empress?
Jin looked like he might faint.
The Valerian Empress? But Day was no longer listening. He ran from the command center, moving faster than he had moved in years. His legs screamed in pain. His chest burned. He did not care. He ran to the main docking bay, pushing past confused station personnel. By the time he arrived, the docking procedures were already beginning. A massive ship, larger than anything that had ever docked at the small station, was carefully maneuvering into position. The ship was beautiful, made of crystalline materials that glowed with inner light. It looked like something from a dream. Day stood in the middle of the empty docking bay, breathing hard, his old heart pounding. Behind him, a crowd was gathering. The entire station population seemed to be coming to see what was happening. News had spread fast. The Valerian Empress was here. For their janitor. The massive ship finished docking with a sound like distant bells. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly a boarding ramp extended. Steam or fog rolled out and lights blazed. First came the honor guard. Rows and rows of Valerian warriors in armor made of living crystal. They marched in perfect formation, their movements synchronized like a dance. They carried energy weapons that hummed with power. They formed two lines, creating a path from the ship to the docking bay floor. Then came the officials. Nobles in flowing robes, advisors carrying data tablets, generals with medals covering their chests. They walked with the confidence of people who ruled planets. They filled the docking bay, hundreds of them. And then she appeared. Hana walked down the ramp and Day forgot how to breathe. She wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. They flowed around her like water, changing colors with every step. On her head was a crown of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. She looked like something from ancient legends. She looked like an empress. But then Day saw her face and he saw past the crown and the robes. He saw her eyes, those same amber eyes that had looked up at him in fear and hope 20 years ago. He saw the scared little girl who had hidden behind cargo containers. He saw the teenager who had helped him mop floors after school. He saw his daughter. Hannah stopped at the top of the ramp. She looked across the docking bay, scanning the crowd. Then she saw him. Standing there in his old janitor uniform, tears running down his face, was Day. For a moment, time stopped. An empress and a janitor looked at each other across the distance. 6 years of separation, 6 years of silence, 6 years of loneliness. All of it disappeared in that single moment. Then Hana ran. She gathered her robes and ran down the ramp like she was 10 years old again. Her crown nearly fell off. Her advisors called out in alarm. The guards did not know what to do. But Hana did not care about any of it. She ran across the docking bay and Day ran to meet her. They crashed together in the middle of the bay. Hana threw her arms around Day and he held her like he had never let go. Both of them were crying. Both of them were laughing. Both of them were saying, "I'm sorry and I missed you and I love you," all at the same time. "Appa." Hana sobbed into his shoulder. "Appa, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wanted to contact you. I wanted to come home. But I couldn't, it wasn't safe. I had to make sure the Empire was stable. I had to make sure they couldn't use you against me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're here now," Day said, his voice breaking. "That's all that matters. You're here. You kept your promise." "Always," Hana said. "I will always keep my promises to you." Behind them, the Valerian officials watched in stunned silence. They had never seen their empress like this. They had known she came from humble beginnings, but seeing her cling to an old human janitor while crying made it real in a way nothing else had. The station population watched too. Day, the quiet janitor who cleaned their floors and fixed their equipment. Day, who they had felt sorry for when his daughter disappeared. Day, who was apparently the adoptive father of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Finally, Hana pulled back enough to look at Day's face. She touched his cheeks, now so much more lined than when she left. His hair was completely white. His hands shook. "You got old," she said with a sad smile. "You got fancy," Day replied, touching her crown gently. "Empress." "My little flower became an empress." "I'm still your little flower," Hana said. "The crown is just decoration. Inside, I'm still the same girl who helped you clean floors." Day looked past her at the massive fleet visible through the bay windows. "You brought a lot of ships." "I brought the first Imperial fleet," Hana said. 1,000 warships. I wanted everyone to know that you are under the protection of the Empire. Nobody will ever threaten you. Nobody will ever harm you. The Empire itself guarantees your safety." "That seems like a lot," Day said. "It's not enough," Hana replied. "If I had 10,000 ships, I would have brought them all. You are more important than any planet in the Empire. You are my father." Around them, Valerian nobles began to bow. One by one, they knelt on the docking bay floor. The honor guard knelt. The generals knelt. Hundreds of the most powerful individuals in the Valerian Empire knelt before a human janitor on a failing station in the middle of nowhere. Then Hana knelt too. She, the Empress, the ruler of trillions, knelt before Day. "Your Majesty, what are you doing?" One of her advisors gasped. "I am showing respect," Hana said clearly, her voice carrying across the silent bay. "This man, when he had nothing, gave me everything. This man taught me what it means to be a good person. This man showed me that true nobility has nothing to do with birth or power. It comes from character. It comes from kindness. It comes from love. If everyone in my empire had half the honor of this man, we would be the greatest civilization in the galaxy." She stood and took Day's hands. "Appa, I have an empire now. I have power. I have wealth. I have everything except the one thing that matters. I don't have home. Will you let me come home? Day laughed through his tears. 5 years had passed since Hana left Station Gamma 7. 5 years of silence. 5 years of waiting. 5 years of hope slowly turning to worry, and worry slowly turning to despair. Day was 67 now. He still worked his janitorial shifts, though his supervisor had reduced his hours out of concern for his health. His back was permanently bent from decades of mopping floors. His hands could barely grip the mop handle some days. But he kept working. If he stopped, he would have nothing but time to think about Hana. Every day, Day checked his messages. Nothing. He sent letters to the last address he had for her at the university. They came back undeliverable. He contacted the Valerian embassy, but they refused to give him any information. He filed missing person reports with every authority he could find. They all said the same thing. Adult citizens had the right to cut contact with family if they wanted. She probably just moved on with her life, but Day knew his daughter. She would not abandon him without a word. Something had happened. He just did not know what. Station Commander Jin, now retired, visited Day often. Jin was old too, spending his final years on the station he had called home for decades. He brought Day tea and company, trying to lift his friend's spirits. "You need to accept that she might not come back," Jin said gently one evening. They sat in Day's apartment, which had not changed since Hana left. Her bed was still made exactly as she had left it. Her books still lined the shelves. The flower pendant hung on the wall. "She will come back," Day said stubbornly. "She promised. Day, 5 years. No messages, no calls, nothing. Maybe she found her people. Maybe she has a new life. Then she would tell me," Day insisted. "She would at least send one message. Something is wrong." "I know it," Jin sighed. He worried about his friend. Day had aged dramatically in these 5 years. The light had gone out of his eyes. He barely ate. He barely slept. He was fading away, holding on to hope that might be empty. Bach worried too. She brought Day food every day, forcing him to eat. "You'll make yourself sick," she scolded. "Hana would not want you to waste away waiting for her." "I'm not wasting away," Day said. "I'm just waiting." His co-workers tried to help. They invited him to dinners and events. They tried to distract him. But Day moved through life like a ghost, present but not really there. He cleaned his floors, returned to his empty apartment, stared at Hana's empty bed and waited. Some nights the loneliness was too much. Day would hold the flower pendant and talk to it as if Hana could hear him. "Where are you, little flower? Are you safe? Are you happy? Did you forget about your old Appa?" The pendant never answered. What Day did not know, what he could not know, was that Hana had not forgotten him. Not for a single day. Not for a single hour. Every night, despite ruling billions of people, she wept for the father she had left behind. Hana's return to the Valerian Empire had been like lightning striking dry wood. She had presented herself to the loyalist factions, proved her identity through genetic tests and ancient rituals that only true royalty could perform. The old families who had served her bloodline for generations fell to their knees. The true heir had returned. But reclaiming a throne is not done with words. It is done with war. For 5 years, Valerian space had burned with civil conflict. Hana led the loyalist forces against the corrupt regime that had murdered her family and enslaved millions. It was brutal. It was bloody. Hana saw more death in those 5 years than she had seen in her entire life before. But she never forgot what Day had taught her. She never targeted civilians. She never allowed unnecessary cruelty. She treated prisoners with dignity. She built hospitals even while building armies. Her enemies expected a vengeful child seeking revenge. Instead, they found a leader guided by principles they could not understand. Every battle Hana won, she won using strategies she had learned in human universities. Every law she planned to enact was based on values Dee had taught her. Every night before sleep, she touched the spot on her chest where the flower pendant had once hung and whispered, "Wait for me, Appa. I'm coming home." She could not contact him. Any communication could be intercepted, could put him in danger. The regime had spies everywhere. If they knew the Empress cared about one human on a nowhere station, they would kill him just to hurt her. So she stayed silent, even though the silence killed her heart slowly. The war turned in her favor. The corrupt government's cruelty had made them enemies everywhere. When Hana offered justice and freedom, soldiers deserted the regime in masses. Planets surrendered without fighting. The old emperor fled to his fortress world and barricaded himself inside. The final battle lasted 3 days. When it ended, the old emperor was dead and Hana stood in the throne room of her ancestors. She was 25 years old and covered in the dust of war. The crown was brought to her, a living crystal that bonded with royal blood. It was placed on her head and she felt its weight. Not the physical weight, but the weight of responsibility, the weight of billions of lives depending on her wisdom. Long live Empress Hana, the crowd shouted. Long live the true heir. But Hana did not feel victorious. She felt tired. She felt lonely. She felt like she was standing very far from home. The first year of her reign was chaos. There were laws to rewrite, corrupt officials to remove, enslaved species to free, treaties to negotiate. Hana worked 20 hours a day, rebuilding an empire that had been rotten for 2 decades. She could not leave. She could not even send a message. The empire was fragile and her enemies still plotted in shadows. Any sign of weakness could start another war. Her advisors, old nobles who had waited decades for the royal line's return, served her faithfully. But they did not understand her. They did not understand why she insisted on equal rights for all species. They did not understand why she refused to execute her political enemies without fair trials. They did not understand why she built schools before palaces. Your Majesty, these policies are unusual, one advisor said carefully. They are correct, Hana replied. My father taught me that power is for protecting people, not controlling them. Your father? The old emperor? No, Hana said quietly. My real father, the one who raised me. The advisors exchanged confused looks but did not question further. Finally, after 5 years of war and 1 year of rebuilding, the empire was stable. Hana had established her power. She had proven herself. She had made the empire strong enough to stand without her constant presence. It was time. Prepare my flagship, Hana ordered, and mobilize the first fleet. Your Majesty, are we going to war? An admiral asked. No, Hana said. We are going home. Thousands of light years away, Day woke up on an ordinary Tuesday morning. He prepared for his shift, moving slowly. He ate a small breakfast alone. He put on his work uniform, the same style he had worn for decades. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw an old, tired man. He walked to the docking bay to begin his work, unaware that his small, quiet life was about to change forever. Unaware that fleets were moving through space. Unaware that an empress was coming home to her father. The universe is large, but love can cross any distance. And some promises, no matter how long they take, are always kept. 10 more years passed like water flowing through fingers. Hana was 20 years old now, by Valerian aging standards equal to a human of the same age. She had grown into a striking young woman. Her silver skin glowed with a brighter light now. The crystalline patterns on her forehead had become more complex, forming beautiful geometric shapes. She carried herself with natural grace and confidence, but there was nothing arrogant about her. Day had made sure of that. Hana attended the sector's university on a full scholarship. She studied galactic politics, interspecies relations, and history. Her professors were amazed by her mind. She could memorize entire treaties after reading them once. She understood complex political theories that confused students twice her age. She spoke 7 languages fluently now. Several governments had already offered her jobs, promising good salaries and important positions. But every weekend, Hana came home. She took the transport from the university planet back to Station Gamma 7, back to the tiny apartment where she had grown up, back to Day. This particular weekend was cold, even by station standards. Hana arrived Friday evening to find Day moving slower than usual. He was 62 now. His hair had gone completely gray. His hands shook slightly when he held things. The years of hard physical work had taken their toll on his body. Appa, you should rest more, Hana said, helping him to his chair. You work too hard. Someone has to keep this station clean, Day replied with a smile. Besides, what would I do if I didn't work? Sit around and get old? You are old, Hana teased gently. That's the point. Day laughed, but the laugh turned into a cough. Hana's face showed worry, but Day waved it away. Just dust in my lungs. Comes with the job. That evening, Hana cooked dinner. She had become an excellent cook, learning from both Day and Bach. who still worked on the station despite her own advancing age. The apartment filled with the smell of doenjang jjigae, soybean paste stew, Dai's favorite. They ate together at the small table, the same table they had shared meals at for 15 years. The table was old and scratched, but it held more memories than some palaces held in their entire halls. "How was university?" Dai asked. He always wanted to hear about her studies, even though he did not always understand the complex topics she discussed. "It's good," Hana said. "I'm writing a paper on how the Valerian Empire maintains control over its outer territories. The methods are actually quite brutal. Your people," Dai said carefully. He never knew how to talk about her origins. "Do you think about them?" Hana was quiet for a moment. "They're not really my people, Appa. You are my people. You're my family. But you came from somewhere," Dai said. "You had a life before I found you. Don't you wonder about it?" Hana set down her spoon. She had been waiting for this conversation. She had been dreading it and preparing for it at the same time. "I have been researching my past," she admitted. "Through university resources. Through genetic databases." Dai's expression did not change, but he stopped eating. "What did you find?" "I found out who I was," Hana said softly. "Who I am. My full name is Hana Velsarin. I am the last surviving member of the Valerian Imperial Dynasty. I am the rightful heir to the throne." The small apartment was very quiet. Outside, the station hummed with its usual sounds. Inside, time seemed to stop. Dai stared at his daughter, this girl he had raised, this young woman who helped him clean floors and shared cheap protein bars with him. "You're a princess," he said slowly. "Empress, technically," Hana corrected. "The last of the royal bloodline. Your family," Dai said. "The palace in your nightmares. It was real. There was a coup 20 years ago," Hana explained. "My entire family was murdered. Someone, probably a loyal servant, smuggled me out. They put me on a refugee ship. I ended up here. The people who killed my family have been ruling the empire ever since. They told everyone the royal line was extinct." Dai processed this information. His hands trembled slightly, not from age now, but from the weight of what he was hearing. "What does this mean?" "It means I have a choice," Hana said. "I can stay here, live a quiet life, keep being just Hana, or I can go back. I can reclaim what was stolen from my family. I can take back the throne." "That sounds dangerous," Dai said quietly. "It is dangerous," Hana agreed. "There are still loyalists, people who have been waiting for the royal line to return. I have been in contact with some of them. But starting a war to reclaim a throne, many people would die." "Then don't do it," Dai said immediately. "Your life is worth more than a throne. Stay here. Stay safe." Hana reached across the table and took Dai's weathered hands in hers. "Appa, the current regime is cruel. They enslave species they consider inferior. They execute people for small crimes. They take children from their families to serve in their military. Every day I don't act, people suffer." Dai looked into her amber eyes and saw determination there. This was not his little flower anymore. This was a woman who had found her purpose. "You've already decided, haven't you?" "I have been thinking about it for 2 years," Hana admitted. "But I'm afraid. Not of dying. I'm afraid of becoming like them. I'm afraid power will change me. I'm afraid I'll forget who I really am." "You could never forget," Dai said. "I raised you. You have a good heart." "You did raise me," Hana said, her voice thick with emotion. "A human janitor from a nowhere station raised me with more wisdom and love than any palace could have provided. You taught me that every person has value. You taught me that a leader serves their people, not the other way around. You taught me everything important." Tears ran down Dai's face. "I just wanted you to be happy." "I can't be happy knowing people suffer when I have the power to help them," Hana said. "You taught me that too. You taught me that when you can help, you should help. That's why you saved me that night in the docking bay. You could have walked away, but you didn't." Dai nodded slowly. He understood. He had always known that Hana was meant for more than this small station. He had hoped to keep her longer, but destiny does not wait for hope. "If you do this," Dai said, "when will you leave?" "Soon," Hana said. "Within the month. I need to make contact with the resistance leaders in person. I need to prove my identity through the ancient blood rituals. And then I need to take back what was stolen. Will you come back?" Dai's voice was small like a child's. "Always," Hana promised. "No matter what happens, no matter what I become, I will always come back to you. You are my father. You are my home. A throne is just a chair, but you are everything." That night, they stayed up late talking. Hana told Day her plans. She told him about the contacts she had made, about the loyalists who waited for her signal. She told him about the risks and the possibilities. Day listened to it all, pride and fear mixing in his heart. "Promise me something," Day said as dawnlight began to filter through the small window. "Promise me you won't lose yourself. Promise me that even if you become an empress, you'll remember the values we shared here in this tiny apartment." "I promise," Hana said solemnly. "Every decision I make, I will ask myself, what would Appa do? And that will guide me." "I never guided emperors before," Day said with a sad smile. "You guided me," Hana replied. "That's the same thing." 1 month later, Hana left Station Gamma 7. There were no fanfare, no announcements. She simply boarded a commercial transport heading toward Valerian space. Day stood in the docking bay, the same bay where he had found her 20 years ago, and watched her ship disappear into the stars. Bach stood beside him. "She'll be okay," the elderly woman said. "You raised her strong." "I know," Day said. But knowing did not make the goodbye hurt less. That night, alone in his apartment, Day noticed that Hana had left the flower pendant on her bed. There was a note, "Keeping it safe here. When I come back, I'll wear it again." "Wait for me, Appa." Day held the pendant and cried. He cried for the scared little girl he had found. He cried for the wonderful young woman she had become. And he cried for the uncertain future that lay ahead. But mostly he cried because he was proud, so very proud. 5 years had passed since that cold night in the docking bay. The small apartment that Day called home had changed. Drawings covered the walls now, colorful pictures made by small hands. A second bed sat in the corner. Books were stacked everywhere. The space was still tiny, but it was full of life. Hana had grown into a bright 10-year-old girl. Her silver skin still glowed softly, and her amber eyes still caught everyone's attention, but she no longer shrank away from the world. She smiled easily now. She laughed. She had learned Korean so well that she spoke it better than Galactic Common. She even picked up Day's accent. Every morning, Day woke her up for school. "Time to wake up, little flower," he would say, using the nickname that came from her name. Hana would groan and pull the blanket over her head, just like any human child. Day would laugh and gently pull the blanket away. "Come on, you'll miss breakfast." Breakfast was always simple. Rice, kimchi, and whatever protein Day could afford that week. But they ate together, talking about Hana's homework or Dai's work stories. These quiet morning moments were precious to both of them. The first years had not been easy. When Hana started school, the other children were afraid of her. She looked so different. Some kids called her names. Some parents worried about having an alien in class. Hana came home crying more than once. Day held her each time. "People fear what they don't know," he told her. "But fear goes away when they see who you really are. Just be kind, be yourself, and they will see." He was right. Slowly, the other children began to accept her. It started when a boy named Tay dropped his lunch and Hana shared hers without thinking twice. Then a girl named Bo got lost in the station corridors and Hana walked her back to class even though it made Hana late. Small acts of kindness added up. Within a year, Hana had friends, but having a daughter was expensive. Day worked double shifts whenever he could. He took extra cleaning jobs. He fixed broken equipment for other station workers in exchange for credits or food. His co-workers worried about him. He was getting older, and the work was hard on his body. Bach, the elderly woman who had helped with the adoption papers, noticed how thin Dai was getting. "You're not eating enough," she scolded him one day. "You're giving all your food to that girl." "She's growing," Day said simply. "She needs it more than I do." Bach shook her head but smiled. She started bringing extra food to work, claiming she always cooked too much. Day knew she was doing it for him and Hana, but he accepted it gratefully. Station Commander Jin did the same, bringing old books and learning tablets that his own children had outgrown. The station community, in their own quiet way, helped raise Hana. Dai taught Hana everything he knew. He taught her how to fix broken things, how to cook simple meals, and how to save credits carefully. But more importantly, he taught her values. He taught her that every person deserved respect, no matter their job or status. He taught her that honesty was more valuable than money. He taught her to work hard and to never look down on others. "Why do you always bow to the cleaning robots?" Hana asked him one day. She was helping him clean the docking bay after school. "Because they work hard just like us," Day replied. "Everything that works deserves respect." Hana thought about this. Then she bowed to the robot too. The robot, programmed to recognize polite behavior, bowed back with its mechanical arms. Hana giggled. After homework each night, Dai told Hana stories about Earth. He told her about Korea, about mountains and temples and cities that touched the sky. He told her about his childhood, about his parents who had passed away long ago. He told her about traditional foods and holidays. Hana loved these stories. She had never been to Earth, but through Dai's words she felt connected to it. "Will we ever go to Earth?" Hana asked one night. Dai smiled sadly. "Maybe someday, but home is not a place, little flower. Home is people, and you are my home." Hana hugged him tightly. "You are my home too, Appa." She had started calling him Appa after learning it was Korean for father. The first time she said it, Dai had cried. They were happy tears. As Hana grew, her intelligence became obvious. Her teachers said she was exceptional, maybe even gifted. She understood complex math easily. She read books meant for much older children. She asked deep questions about the universe, about politics, about why things were the way they were. One teacher, Mr. Kwan, called Dai in for a meeting. "Hana is extraordinary," he said. "She could get into any academy in the sector. She could be a scientist, a diplomat, anything she wants." Dai felt proud, but also worried. Those academies cost a lot of money. "Scholarships exist," Mr. Kwan said. "A mind like hers should not be wasted." That night, Dai talked to Hana about it. "Your teacher says you're very smart. Would you like to go to a special school?" Hana looked at him with her large amber eyes. "Would I have to leave the station?" "Maybe someday." "Would I have to leave you?" Dai's heart squeezed. "I would visit, and you would come home for holidays." Hana was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I don't want to leave you, Appa. You're more important than any school." Dai hugged her. "We'll figure it out together. But never limit yourself because of me. Promise me you'll always reach for what you want in life." "I promise," Hana said. Sometimes, late at night, when Hana was asleep, she would have nightmares. She would cry out in a language Dai did not understand. She would thrash and call for someone. Dai would wake her gently and hold her until the fear passed. "I remember things," Hana told him once after a particularly bad nightmare. "I remember a big palace with crystal walls. I remember people bowing to me. I remember someone carrying me and running. There was fire. There was screaming. Those memories can't hurt you now," Dai said. "You're safe here." "Why did they leave me behind?" Hana asked, tears running down her face. "Why didn't anyone come looking for me?" Dai had no answer to that. He just held her. "I found you, and I will never leave you behind." On Hana's 15th birthday, Dai saved up for months to buy her something special. It was a pendant shaped like a flower, made of cheap metal but polished until it shined. He gave it to her with nervous hands. "It's beautiful," Hana said, putting it on immediately. "I'll never take it off." "It's not much," Dai said apologetically. "It's perfect," Hana replied. "Because it comes from you." That night they celebrated with homemade seaweed soup, a Korean birthday tradition. Bak and Jin joined them in the tiny apartment. They sang happy birthday in 3 different languages. There was no expensive cake, no fancy presents. But there was love. There was family. As Hana blew out the single candle on her small cake, Dai watched her and felt content. They didn't have much. He worked a humble job. They lived in a tiny space. But they had each other, and somehow that was enough. He had no way of knowing that Hana had been researching her past in secret. He had no way of knowing that she had discovered who she really was. He had no way of knowing that their simple, happy life was about to change forever. For now, in this moment, they were just a father and daughter celebrating another year together. And that was all that mattered. The mop moved across the floor in steady strokes. Dai had cleaned this same docking bay 1,000 times before. It was past midnight on Station Gamma 7, and the huge metal space was finally empty and quiet. His back hurt like it did every night. He was 47 years old, and his body reminded him of this fact with every movement. Station Gamma 7 was not a fancy place. It was a small human trading post far from Earth, sitting on the edge of known space. Ships came and went, bringing traders, travelers, and sometimes refugees. Dai had worked here for 15 years as a janitor. It was simple work. Nobody paid attention to him, and he liked it that way. Earlier that day, the station had been chaos. 3 refugee ships had arrived from a war zone. Hundreds of scared people had rushed through the docking bay, grabbing their belongings and running to the processing center. Now they were gone, but they had left behind a mess. Broken containers, scattered clothes, and trash covered the floor. Day worked slowly, picking up items one by one. He found a child's toy and placed it gently in the lost items box. Someone might come back for it. He always treated people's belongings with respect, even garbage. His mother had taught him that everything deserved care. He was moving a large cargo container when he heard it. A small sound, like a whimper. Day stopped and listened. Nothing. He shook his head, thinking he was just tired. Then he heard it again. Day walked around the container. Behind it, pressed against the cold metal wall, was a small child. But this was not a human child. The girl had skin that glowed softly with a silver light. Her eyes were huge and amber-colored like warm honey. Strange crystalline patterns ran across her forehead, catching the dim light. She looked terrified. The girl could not be more than 5 years old. She was tiny, wearing torn clothes that were too big for her. Her arms were wrapped around her knees and she was shaking. When she saw Day, she pressed herself harder against the wall, trying to disappear. Day's heart broke. He had seen that look before, in his own mirror, years ago when he had lost everything. He knew what fear and loneliness looked like. He slowly got down on one knee, making himself smaller and less scary. He held up his hands to show they were empty. "It's okay," he said softly in Korean. The girl did not understand, but she heard the gentle tone. "You're safe now." The girl stared at him with those huge amber eyes. Day noticed she was shaking not just from fear but from cold. The docking bay was always cold at night. He slowly took off his jacket and held it out to her. She did not take it. Day set the jacket on the ground between them and moved back. Then he sat down on the cold floor and waited. He did not move toward her. He just sat there, showing her that he was not a threat. After a long time, the girl's small hand reached out. She grabbed the jacket and pulled it around her shoulders. It was far too big, but it was warm. "Are you hungry?" Day asked. He pulled a protein bar from his pocket. It was his midnight snack, but she needed it more. He unwrapped it and placed it on the ground, then moved back again. The girl watched him for several minutes. Then, moving very fast, she grabbed the bar and ate it in desperate bites. She was starving. Day's communicator buzzed. It was his supervisor. "Day, are you almost done? We need that bay clear." "Almost finished," Day replied. He looked at the small alien child. He could call security. That was the right thing to do according to station rules. But something stopped him. He thought about what would happen to her. She would be put in a cold processing facility, alone and scared, waiting for someone to claim her. Nobody would come. He could see it in her eyes. She was alone in the universe. Day made a decision that would change his life. "Come with me," he said gently. He stood up slowly and held out his hand. The girl did not take it, but when he started walking, she followed him, staying several steps behind. He brought her to his apartment. It was very small, just one room with a bed, a small kitchen, and a bathroom. But it was clean and warm. The girl stood in the doorway, not moving. Day went to his closet and pulled out some blankets. He made a soft bed on the floor in the corner of the room. Then he heated up some soup and poured it into a bowl. He placed the soup on a small table and backed away. The girl moved like a scared animal, quick and careful. She grabbed the bowl and drank the soup so fast she almost choked. When she was done, she looked at him with those amber eyes, and for the first time some of the fear was gone. "You can sleep here," Day said, pointing to the blanket bed. "I won't hurt you, I promise." That night, Day slept in his chair, fully dressed, ready in case the girl needed anything. He woke several times to check on her. Each time she was curled up in the blankets, shaking even in her sleep. Each time his heart hurt for her. In the morning, Day knew what he had to do. He contacted the station authorities and told them he had found an orphaned alien child. They ran a scan of her biology. She was Valerian, from a distant empire far across the galaxy. The Valerian embassy was contacted. The response came back cold and simple. Child is from lower bloodline, no value, do what you want. Those words made Dee angry. No value? She was a child. Every child had value. The station administrator, a woman, named Bach, who had worked with Day for years, looked at him with concern. Day, if you want to keep her, you'll need to file adoption papers. It's a lot of work, a lot of credits. Are you sure? Day looked through the window at his apartment, where the small alien girl was looking at a picture book he had left for her. Her small finger traced the images, and there was wonder in her eyes. I'm sure, Day said. Her name is Hana. Hana? Bach asked. It means flower in Korean, Day replied. She needs a name she can grow into. The paperwork took weeks. There were medical checks, psychological evaluations, and countless forms. Officials questioned why a single human janitor with barely enough credits to feed himself wanted to adopt an alien child. Day had only one answer. Because she needs someone, and I can be that someone. Finally, the papers were approved. Hana was legally his daughter. When Day told her, she did not understand the words, but she understood something had changed. That night, for the first time, she fell asleep without shaking. And Day, watching over her, felt something he had not felt in 15 years. He felt like he had a purpose again. He had a family.